Hi there. This is the energy update for the week of the 8th of February, where we are going to have some Pisces energy rolling on in. We are going to have the Mercury retrograde pre-shadow enter, and we're going to have Valentine's Day, of which Saturn is going to move into Aries. So let's get into it. My name is Analia. I am the Explicit Empress. And I combine a bit of witchcraft with a bit of astrology, and we break down some of these aspects very deeply. So let's just get started with the February 8th fuckery. February 8th. What have you got for us? Well, as you can see, February 8th has for us is a lot of fucking frustrating energy and also a square to Pluto. Okay. So all of these quincunx energies that are happening very early on in the morning, the moon will be void for those. So the moon will go void with a trine to Venus at 11 o'clock the night before. And it's going to stay void until the early hours of February 8th. And while it's void, it's making these three quincunx aspects. Well, two, actually, I should say. One of which is a little bit of a crisis. Okay. So the first one, the quincunx to Uranus, a quincunx or an in conjunction, whichever word you want to use for that, it needs some kind of adjustment. Okay. And so we're in kind of this relationship energy, how we relate to other people, Libra moon. 27 degrees is a Gemini degree, and we are now forward moving in Uranus, right? So Uranus in Taurus moving towards its big shift, which is not until the 26th of April, where it moves back into Gemini. So now that we're going forward in Uranus, and it's a little bit shaky at the moment because it's a big planet, it takes a long time to move. And it's now trying to have us really understand, integrate, and look at the information that we have found in the last 8 years while it's been working its way through Taurus. And it's looking for, heart-related things. Libra and Taurus are both ruled by Venus. Venus at the moment, though, is in Aquarius. So there is a component to our I am energy when it comes to being in relationships with people that's now asking for a lot more authenticity of what it is that we want. And so these in conjunctions are helping us do that, right? That first one is making these adjustments in the way that we balance out relationships, the way that we change relationships, the way that we value ourselves, the way that we value the space that we take up in relationships, our value in relationships. Those sorts of things are starting to shift. We're starting to want more balance. We're starting to want more realism and honesty. And so then that 29-degree Libra moon meeting up with a 29-degree Saturn, that is justice right there. That is so much justice right there. But it is also where we need to make adjustments in our value system when it comes to relationships. And then at 7 p.m., when the moon has entered Scorpio, which a moon in Scorpio, it's very deep. It's very transformative. It's trying to alchemize. It's trying to rise again as the phoenix from something else. And when it meets up here for the first time, 0 degrees Scorpio moon with a 0 degrees Neptune in Aries, this aspect is trying to make these adjustments for the sake of transformation, right? We can't plant new seeds in soil that's got dead plants growing in it. And this aspect is helping us make these adjustments. And it might not be something that you can see or feel or understand because, an in conjunction, quincunx, especially relating to a moon in Scorpio and also Neptune being involved, there can be a bit of haze over what's actually happening. But stay open very early morning on the 8th to any kind of compromises that needs to happen or seeing things in a way that you maybe haven't seen them before. Because then we get this very interesting 821 sesquiquadrate, right, to Jupiter. Now, Jupiter has been retrograding and will go direct on the 11th of March, right? Jupiter will go direct. So this sesquil quadra is trying to show us some sort of pattern that gets us stuck, right? It's trying to show us where, when it's triggered, we go back into an old way of doing things. And, you know, at the time that Mercury is going to be making that aspect with Jupiter, it's going to be in the 12th house. And it's going to be right near Venus. So one of the things that it's going to be showing us is about our worth or is about our relationships. And these might be things that we have found difficult to see because firstly, Mercury has entered Pisces and that brings a lot of intuitive qualities where there was usually logic. And it's happening in the 12th house. So the 12th house is where Mercury is speaking to Jupiter from, and Jupiter is in the 5th house. So relating to places that you felt powerless as a child, likely in regards to how much nurturing you were allowed to need or ask for. And we're sort of seeing that that is one of these themes that will keep coming up as we start building these new things. Neptune in 0 degrees of Aries, Saturn will be there soon. And we're really looking at things that get in our way of making those changes and how that could be related to growing up, right? Our family space as well. So when we move through this morning with this Scorpio moon, it's going to make a trine to Mercury at 9:39. So this is where we're working together, right? Mercury in Pisces is working together with the moon in Scorpio. The moon in Scorpio at 1 degree is trying to transform something, heal something, see something from this perspective. And it is trying to move some stuff around in the mind, in how we think about things. Okay. So it's going to be, when it makes this trine, the moon is going to be in the 8th house of transformation, right? That's Scorpio, 8th house. And Mercury in Pisces is still going to be in the 12th house. So this trine that's kind of going on, we're not likely to really see it in the real world, okay, because it's happening in the 12th and the 8th house. Something is being transformed about our emotional space. It's trying to align us more with the mentalities that we have either, hopefully you've let them go by now, but the mentalities that have come from trauma placements, that have come from trauma situations, that are ancestral, right, where at the beginning of this Pisces journey, which is going to move us through a Pisces retrograde and really end out any mentalities that are still lingering around that we've been holding on to from the Neptune side. So the square to Pluto that happens at 2 p.m. at 3 degrees, that's one that could be a little bit internal, but because we've got some Mercury involved and because we're dealing with a Pluto in Aquarius, it could involve other people and it could involve a conversation and it could involve maybe saying some stuff that we maybe shouldn't be saying. Okay. So just be aware of that. That could be a pretty big battle of authority, okay, as well. So when we see this moon squaring up onto Pluto, it's trying to change something about your values. It's trying to change something about how you communicate your values. It's trying to have you align your values and the communication of your values with your true authenticity. Okay. Now it's working in harmony and really trying to speak to us in a way that makes sense to where we're going, right? And so it's really trying to have us take into our own hands our self-worth, right? And it's doing that by aligning our understanding of the mentalities that we have with kind of these like memories from the past, right? And where we've gotten values from these things from the past. So all of these things are kind of coming together, right? But it's doing so under this like Mercury and Pisces kind of haze. So there's not really any boundaries to this. Like we're being very open up to seeing things quite intuitively. And we're really needing to explore where we have to change things about how we see stability and long-term goal setting and success. And we're sort of being asked to shift those things because of events that are happening in our real life, right? Like we're seeing stuff happen maybe in our home, maybe at work, maybe just on a bigger collective. And in doing that, we are trying to learn how to communicate our actual emotions, right? And because the moon is in Scorpio, those emotions might be about guilt or shame or deceit that you need to speak up for. But because we're trying to get that value system to really align with our authenticity so we can communicate properly, we have to have this shake up, right? We have to see this. And so that Scorpio Aquarius square is really trying to cause some kind of inner friction that we're going to have to work through. Like we have to work through that tension. We have to understand that tension so that we can like stop it from happening. And that moon also still in a quincunx with Priapus, right? So asking for how we show our primal masculine energy to make some adjustments as well. Because that primal masculine energy is part of the component that is stopping us from being able to fully sink into the feminine nature and, you know, discuss our emotions and to feel the shame and the guilt that we need to feel in order to change the things so that we don't feel those things again. And, you know, we've still got that big lineup of planets kind of moving through, and Saturn is at 29 degrees. So there is a bit of a stress when it comes to transformation, because at the point of that square, Saturn will be also making a square to the vertex in the sky. So really asking us to take our self-worth into our own hands by causing some kind of situation that is forcing transformation, okay? And in that moment of forcing transformation, we have to take our worth of nurturing into our own hands, okay? And so when we move down through this energy, we see that Saturn is now kind of saying, hey, there is something from your childhood that made you powerless, that made you feel powerless, that made you feel maybe some guilt, maybe some shame, and that now let it go. Like that's an outworn idea, that's an outworn value, and Saturn at the crisis degree, finishing his 30-year cycle, is like, leave it here in the past. And then it asks us to keep an open mind about this semi-sextile to Lilith, right? So then the moon in Scorpio, you know, it's just been talking to Saturn about places we felt powerless, and it's sort of saying, keep an open mind now because Lilith's got some shit to show you, right? And what she's going to be showing you is here somewhere in reality, 6:48 p.m., the moon at 6 degrees of Scorpio. So this is likely to be like a feeling of guilt or shame or misunderstanding, or even maybe a little bit spicy, could be a little bit spicy. That energy showing up in order for you to see that outworn situation that needs to be let go of, that Saturn is trying to show us. And then at 8:48 p.m., Venus squares Uranus at 27 degrees. So this is like a relationship situation, right? This is like something now having an epiphany, something you can't unsee. Something in regards to the things that you need to have in a relationship that are for you. The ways in which maybe what you thought was an unconventional way to build relationships needs to now shift, right? And so we're having this square, Venus and Uranus. And Uranus is closing out its cycle too. You know, it's been 8 years in Taurus and it's closing out its cycle. So when we get this aspect to Venus squaring Uranus, we are dealing with how the balance of give and take in our actual realities with how we relate to other people, how that affects how we communicate our emotions, how we communicate our trauma experiences, how we value what we've got to say, and really trying to change an inner value system about what is stable and safe in those relationships. Okay, so it's going to be really showing up relationships that are unbalanced, that are having a lot of fuckery going on in them. Okay, and a lot of this energy at the moment is about relationships, right? Because Aquarius rules the 11th house. Let's grab a card for the 8th. Go on the floor. The truth comes softly. Yeah. I mean, none of these aspects are major aspects. Like, I shouldn't say none of them. The squares are, right? And the trine is. But everything else is a soft aspect. A trine is also quite a soft aspect, right? So the squares are quite hard. Everything else is more of a soft aspect. And it's really telling us that, like, we need to sit and find our truth, right? In order to transform. Okay. Really sitting and finding our truth. Let's look up the little passage about that. In the clean space of freedom to witness the self, we can find ways to work with the truth. Truths are not the same as facts. Truths are about our stories and the story of our lives thus far. Being isolated for a time can mean we begin to understand more of our stories. Let the truth become clearer until it's in front of you. It's yours to write. I mean, that's going to have a lot to do with that Venus squaring Uranus, okay, with where we're maybe seeing that there wasn't security with what is my truth. You know, Aquarius really wants to look at it from that external perspective. The Libra moon that we start off that day with as well is looking at it from an external perspective. But Neptune in Aries, and, you know, it wants us to start something for us, okay? So that's what I got for you on the 8th. Let's see what the 9th has to hold. Okay. Oh, I like it when they're quite small like that. All right. So let's look at the 9th of February. What have we got for us? I mean, the big one here, obviously, that's square to Mars. Okay, square to Mars. That square to the moon also down there. Right. So we started with a trine to the node, and I quite like this. 1221, 1221. We like that number. We're at 9 degrees as well. So we're in higher wisdom, higher learning, spiritual energy. The Sagittarius degree, okay, Jupiter ruled. Now, a Scorpio moon at 9 degrees, there's definitely some kind of inner values or some kind of mystical, spiritual magic shit going on, right? Because it's at 12:21 a.m. in Australia, likely going to be some weird dream shit going on. And really working in harmony, really trying to, like, show you where, like, death and rebirth isn't scary, right? It's trying to show you those things. It's trying to have you experience the joy of that, right? Now, that square to Mars, that could be a bit rough, though. That's happening at 8 a.m. and, like, that's Monday morning at 8 a.m. And it's at 12 degrees. And we're dealing with Scorpio and Aquarius, okay? So Scorpio is on the axis of possession. Aquarius is on the axis of ego and expression. 12 degrees is a Pisces degree. So this could be trauma related here. Trauma around, you know, maybe feeling like you do things too differently to other people, like trauma related to, you know, constantly having to question how to motivate yourself, what you want to do, how you want to move forward in life. You know, Scorpio is about possessing things, but Aquarius energy kind of moves, right? And, you know, they're both fixed signs. Scorpio being the axis of possession and Aquarius being on the axis of ego and expression. It's kind of got a bit of a godlike quality to it. And Scorpio is very possessive and very protective and very controlling. This is a battle energy, okay? This is, and let's not forget also, let me throw in, that Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Uranus. And Uranus is in Taurus, another stubborn energy. And Saturn is finishing up in Pisces and is at 29 degrees. Okay, so there is a lot of crisis kind of stubborn energy around this. And when we get this square, it's trying to, like, really show you where an outdated belief system kind of gets triggered, right? And where your value slips because of that, or where you get so caught up in possessing material things, that causes a trigger that sends you into a repetitive cycle about your worth, right? Because that goes both ways. That's, if you lose the thing, then that affects your worth as well. So we're trying to change how we're going to move forward in the future, the luck around it, where we get to take things into our own hands, where we don't have to be powerless anymore in regards to these things. And we're integrating all of this knowledge that we've been looking at while Saturn and Neptune have been moving through Pisces. And we're really starting to understand where money or shared resources or instability around things like jobs and legacy and money, where those things completely fuck up your inner value system, right? And where we self-sabotage those things because we haven't dealt with the trauma related to being different to others, moving differently to others. And when we get that square to Mars, we're going to have Mars in the 12th house, right? At 12 degrees in the 12th house. And the moon is going to be in the 9th house. So the value systems and our subconscious space are in a fucking battle. The way we feel about those values, the way we hold on to them, the way we possess those values is causing friction because our subconscious space has integrated so much energies around how we should move forward, aligned with what we want to fucking do, that we need to adjust something. And then that sesquiquadrant quadrant is going to show you like what needs to be adjusted in that value system. And then that next sesquiquadrant quadrant is like the Scorpio moon giving that information to Neptune and being like, hey, this is the thing. This is the thing that's going to trigger me. This is where I'm stuck. This is where I need to start making decisions, right? And then we get the trine to Jupiter working in harmony. 16 degrees is a Cancer degree. So we're in a bit of a softer energy with this as well. It's a bit of a nicer, more flowing kind of energy. Jupiter is still retrograding and has one more degree left before it finishes its retrograde. And so this is really about like nurturing the places that are kind of dark and shadowy and scary, and really loving those parts about you, really loving the intensity of it, and wanting to find the power in it instead of allowing the fear to get to you. Okay. And then at 422, Mercury at 3 degrees of Pisces, Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius are saying stay open-minded, right? Mercury's in this intuitive kind of energy in Pisces. 3 degrees is a Gemini degree, collecting information, communicating. Pluto, king of the underworld, trying to like find authenticity, trying to be more collective thinking, trying to do its part, right? And let's stay open-minded, right? Could be a bit of annoying energy because it is the last one before we get to this wicked square. This square is also, like, this is a day of friction. Monday. Work from home if you can. This is a day of friction, all right? So the sun squaring the moon at 11:43 p.m., and that's Melbourne time. That's 20 degrees for Scorpio degree. So that's really transforming something through a huge point of friction. Okay, now that could affect how you are seen. Your reputation could be coming into play here. And you could also be seeing like something out of your control happening. Okay. That's really trying to uncover where you need to express yourself more, where you probably didn't because of the way you experienced your father. Okay, that's likely to show up in real life. For some people, that's quite literally that 11:43 aspect is going to lead to a fight with a father energy, with a masculine energy in your life, with somebody of authority in your life. Okay, and that's quite literally going to be out of your hands, but it is going to ask you to then do something, ask you to then change something, ask you to look at where people that you've been in relationships with in the past, where those people have upheld this situation that needs to be released, right? That's been affecting your reputation or how you move in the world or how you deal with guilt and shame, right? How you deal with guilt and shame in your everyday life, and like places that need to have adjustments made that will affect your reputation and how people see you. Okay. And there are massive squares going on with that father wound space and the IC and the MC for your, your private self and your social reputation are also kind of involved. So even though it's just the sun squaring the moon at the same time as that, Mars is also going to be still aspecting, right? Like Mars is going to be still in a square with the IC and the DC at this stage. So your reputation and how you relate to other people. And it's really asking you to take like your confidence into your own hands and make moves from that point of view. But that could be a huge battle of authority. And let's get a card for the energy of the night. Oh, I like that. I like that. So part of the energy of the ninth is truly learning that we are walking away from old emotional programs that have stopped us from being able to love ourselves and other people completely. And that it was only an illusion that we needed an authority to come in and tell us what to do. Isn't that interesting? Okay, let's move. February 10th. What have you got for us? A lot. Okay. So we start off on February 10th having to have this annoying shit, right? The moon's going to be at 23 degrees of Scorpio and it's going to meet up with Chiron as well. So we're sort of seeing at that 2:08 a.m. aspect with the quintile to Pluto. We're sort of being asked to look for truth that maybe is hidden in a shadowy space, right? And we've got Pluto there at 3 degrees of Aquarius helping us out. So that could also, again, be some weird fucking dreams into the shadow space. And then at 4:44 a.m., very, very nice time, that Chiron wound and the moon in Scorpio, because we're in the darkness, right? We're in this like last degrees of the Scorpio moon. So we're like scooting around in the darkness and we're looking for all of the places that we packed up, our authenticity or the idea of how much space we're allowed to take up and like feeling shame for taking up space and feeling shame for wanting to learn or speak or grow or, ask for our needs to be met, right? And so there's adjustments that need to be made because of these things. And I think the moon will be void. Yeah, it looks like it. It's going to go void. Oh, it's going void with the square to the moon on the 9th. That's great. That's great. So you could also be waking up wanting to fucking fight somebody on February 10th. Great. Or waking up to like some kind of communication from a point of authority, trying to fuck up your whole day. So then 1:15, a moon opposing Uranus on the axis of possession. And this is like happening in the middle of the day. So this could also be another little bit of a battleground that shows up where you are being too possessive or where you are looking at too much shadow and not looking at the present day, or where you are looking at the present day and you're not looking at the shadow, or where you are focused on shared resources and you're not focused on your own worth, right? So where you rely on other people to tell you, to tell you how worthy you are of things, right? And so we're going to go through that. I skipped this one, didn't I? I don't know why. So 1:10 p.m. and 1:15 p.m. very close together. So with the moon opposing Uranus, right? That's like on the axis of possession. We're being told to stay open-minded at this 29-degree meetup, right? So Saturn trying to like change our authentically aligned relationship values, right? Trying to change those by helping us stay open-minded through this opposition to Uranus can fucking show us information, right? Now, what we want to be trying to get out of it is to be able to see where we've like let the shadow side, so guilt, shame, misunderstanding, repressed sexual energy, repressed creative energy, where we've not shown that because we're worried about our reputation and how that has quite literally impacted our confidence and our relationship dynamics. And then a 29-degree Scorpio moon asks Chiron, the childhood wound placement, to let go of an outdated, outlawed belief system that we have in regards to how we show up as ourselves and ask for our own needs to be met and take up space as who the fuck we are. And then a 29-degree Scorpio moon trines Saturn at 29 degrees of Pisces at 5:32 p.m. on Tuesday. Oh my God. That's a lot. That's a lot. Okay. Let me look at that on my other map so I can truly understand it. Okay. So that's going to be happening in a way that is trying to shift outdated ancestral generational belief systems that have been impacting your ability to find your truth, right? It's parts of you that you have rejected in regards to your own truth, and where you were sort of powerless to live by your own truth, maybe because of some guilt and shame as a child. That's really being that is really being shifted. So the moon trining Saturn at 29 degrees, Scorpio moon at 29 degrees, Pisces Saturn, the moon will go void with that aspect. So there will be a bit of a hangover energy. And during that hangover, oh no, it's not. It's going to go to square to Venus. Oh my God, that's going to be a time, guys. Okay, let's talk through this. So the moon will go void with a square to Venus. Right. So trine to Saturn, square to Lilith, square to Venus, all within half an hour of each other. That's a crisis degree with the moon in Scorpio, trining Saturn and squaring Venus. So that tells us that this friction is happening to update an inner belief system in regards to how we've valued our own authenticity in relationships. And it says that there are mentalities that we are now choosing to make ourselves powerless to because of these places that we have rejected about our wild woman energy, about our sexuality, about our needs for truth, our truth, not, science, facts, but truth. Our truth, the truth of our existence and how we felt growing up, the truth of what those mentalities have done, right? What those, what traumatic experiences in regards to when you have spoken your truth, what traumatic experiences in regards to where you felt guilt or shame and then experienced trauma because of it, or you had trauma and then experienced guilt and shame, and how that has allowed us to reject a lot of our truth when it comes to how we want to speak up, how we want to bring rebellion to our lives, how we maybe want to be a bit wild, how our truth is important. And that really has impacted how we enjoy things in life, right? So part of this lesson is going to involve how lack of or unbalanced or some type of misunderstanding in regards to how you've experienced your mother or growing up or your family space, how that has impacted your ability to really nurture yourself and your own experience with the world, right? Now that has had an effect on your reputation. And so we're really going to be able to see with this energy in the afternoon how all of these things are connected. Your mentalities from the places of yourself that you've rejected, these outdated ideas that we hold on to in relationships to protect our ego, who doesn't want anyone to see us as who we fucking are. All of those things are in the past, right? So then we're going to have the moon go void with that square to Venus, but also because all of those, that's very close together. So the void moon will be with the square to Venus, but also trining Saturn, and also Mercury will be squaring Lilith at the same time. And the moon will be void. Then it's going to move into Sag, and Sag wants to do stuff, right? It wants to solve the problem. It wants to find the answer. And so then we see that Sag moon meet up with Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries to do exactly that. Let's go find the answer. Let's do the thing. And to do that thing, we then have to deal with that Sagittarius moon at 1 degree, going and trying to find patterns that we keep getting stuck in regards to what we learned from our family space, right? And then how we've moved forward, we're trying to check whether or not we've been moving in an authentic way. Because if we're not doing that, there is no stability in it, right? Mars at 14 degrees of Aquarius is going to be a fucking stubborn shit degree, and the moon at 2 degrees of Sagittarius, it kind of thinks that there's only worth in its own truth. And so the quintile is sort of saying, well, actually, these two things, are holding on to the idea that one of these two things is more important, is more dominant, right? So either the value of your own truth or the stubbornness with which you move through the world, that one of those things needs to be in charge. But the quintile says there is a way to work with both of these energies that is a gift, and you're missing out on that if you allow one or the other to be more in charge. Okay, so very interesting energy on the 10th. That's going to be quite problematic for a lot of people. Sort of shame, guilt stuff is going to be really lit up. If you are someone who has a 29-degree Pisces placement, that's going to be a lot. That 530 aspect, that's a bit of a magic aspect, especially because Lilith is involved, causing some fucking friction. That's the kind of energy that we really want to be death and rebirthing in, and that we really want to be calling it joy, authentic, primal energy, joy. Let's grab a card from the 10th, please. Let's see what's going on while we are having all of these massive internal shifts. The 8 of Pentacles in reverse, the Page of Swords. Sometimes we can't trust anyone, and like everyone, right? Sometimes we can't trust everyone, and we need to allow our sword of truth to cut through the bullshit. Is that message? Okay. All right, February 11th. What have you got for us? Much better day, but still a lot of. Okay. So, starting off with the sextile to Pluto, which is asking us to please go searching for our own truth and to be looking in the underworld for said truth. Okay. And to do that, we need to keep an open mind, right? Venus has moved into Pisces now, it's at 0 degrees. And it's asking us to keep our fucking minds open to what we're now going to find, to the sort of relationships that we're going to move into and how we move within them, how we allow creativity within them, how we allow pleasure and joy and all of these things. And are we allowing ourselves to be unaffected by the traumatic experiences of the past as we move into this new energy? The moon's going to also conjunct Lilith, and that's going to be pretty fucking rebellious, right? So that's where to Mercury right after. That's going to be a lot. Be careful what you're saying. Okay, be careful what you're saying. Especially because the Mercury retrograde pre-shadow is very close by. So anything that's kind of being said, spoken about, thought about, all of these things are going to be a part of it, okay? Once we get to 8 degrees of Mercury, that's where it kind of comes out of its retrograde. So that's really where it's going to start. But it will sort of start coming in the next couple of days, right? 11, 12, 13, it starts coming in. So this moon conjunct Lilith, working together, the wild woman, the rebellion, right, at 5 degrees, which is a Leo degree, so there's confidence in it, there's expression of self in it. It's really helping us express this kind of inner wisdom, inner truth, inner knowing energy, right? And then the moon at 6 degrees, a Virgo degree, right, meets up with Pisces, Mercury at 6 degrees, right? So this is something that affects our life, right? Something that affects the day-to-day of our life. Could be something health related as well for some people, depending on where these energies sit in your chart. But it is kind of the energy of like not speaking up for what needs to be said. Could have an effect on your day-to-day life, especially your health. Okay, especially your health. But that could be a battle, right? Because that's like a moon squaring Mercury while Lilith is being activated as well. That's somebody being overly critical. That's somebody being pretty blunt with communication, but in a somewhat confusing way, right? Like it's somebody speaking their truth very bluntly, but it may not be received properly because we're dealing with a Mercury in Pisces. So be careful with the things that you say, because it's likely that we're not going to be truly saying what needs to be said. And also, Mercury is going to be in a loose opposition with the South Node. So we could be projecting something karmic. We could be overly criticizing somebody else when the purpose of that is just to be showing us an internal criticism. And that internal criticism or the external criticism or the way in which this is communicated, something about that square to Mercury, that has a fucking impact on your good luck at work. This is not, February 11th, guys, is not the day to have conversations, important conversations at work. Like there's a lot of ego in this energy. There's a lot of righteousness in it. The point of fortune is going to be in the 10th house when that square to Mercury happens. And it's going to be in Gemini at 6 degrees. So there's going to be like a real life, real time impact on your career, on your legacy, on that kind of workspace energy by the things that get said under this energy. So, you know, maybe that just means that you're like quitting a job. Great, because that's going to have a good impact on, that's going to have an impact on your life, right? But maybe it's accidentally being triggered by something because that opposition, we have Mercury and the North Node are almost conjunct. And so that's opposing that first house energy where we've got the anti-vertex and also the South Node. So the anti-vertex is telling you, like, take something into your own hands, almost forcing that from something that's occurring in a relationship dynamic, probably at work, right? So this is like some pretty heavy work stuff energy, but like what gets said is very likely to have an effect on your career, social reputation, okay? Very likely. So that's some collective energy that's going to not have a very good time with that. I'm looking at you if you've been doing weird, deceitful shit, okay, especially towards women. Okay, the 1109 special quadrant to Chiron, that's quite transformative, okay, because we've got the moon in Sag looking for truth, and in doing that, it's going to show you where something has been stuck, show you where you keep being compulsive or obsessive and keep going back over the same shit because of that childhood wound. Then we get a square to the node, which again is going to be really helping you see the value system that you have that has been impacting your comfort levels about moving forward into something different. And then at 1:12 p.m., the sun comes in and at the fucking Capricorn degree literally says, bitch, let it go. Like, let it go. Whatever the idea is that you are holding on to from your family space growing up, you need to let it go if it doesn't align with who the fuck you are and your truth and your life. Okay? This is very fucking fiery energy. And then Mars makes a semi-square to Saturn and is like, hey, stop being so fucking stubborn. Mars at 14 degrees Aquarius. Stop being so stubborn about your rebellion for a sec. And let's just let's have a little look at some of these outworn situations that have happened in the last 3 years. Let's look at them. Let's get rid of them because the biquintal to Jupiter just afterwards says let it go. And that's the moon at 10 degrees. So we get the sun at a Capricorn degree of Aquarius saying let it go, something about your family. And then we get Mars and Saturn, like you're doing something that is outworn and you're being fucking stubborn about it. Stop it. Stop seeing it from that perspective. And then the biquintal to Jupiter is the moon at 10 degrees, which is a Capricorn degree. So it's like the sun at 22 degrees, take responsibility for your authenticity. And the moon at 10 degrees of Sagittarius is take responsibility for your truth, right? And from that point, let go of this idea. Because then we get this sun-moon quintile at the Capricorn degrees, 22 and 10, really saying like, okay, well, like what have you not looked at that you're actually going to be quite good at if you didn't have all of this shit that needs to be let go of. And then at 10:32, Venus makes this circle quadrant to Jupiter. And that's really wanting you to start building this new idea of relationships. And like Venus in Pisces is very floaty and very lovey and very like imaginatory. And it's like quite a nice energy, but it can be a bit hazy, right? Be aware of that. And so at 1 degrees of Pisces, where is that component for you? What does that look like for you? What does a what does a creative, imagination-based, flowing kind of relationship look like to you? And where does something get triggered from your family space in relationships that sends you back into this kind of trauma mentality? or an over-giving mentality, because Pisces being like an energy of sacrifice. So part of this for some people is going to be where you sacrifice your own needs because of the way that you grew up and how that shows up in relationships. Some of it's also going to be about illusions that get created in relationships and how they come from your family space. And some of it is going to, for some of you, it's going to be showing you where something gets triggered in a relationship that sends you back into a repetitive pattern because of trauma from your mother. Okay. Let's get a card. Let's get a card. I'm going to get this guy. People do racing down the streets all the time. So annoying. Between two worlds. Oh, that's on point. That's on point. Between two worlds. We are really between two worlds. That is exactly where we are on February 11th. We couldn't be more in between two worlds. We are a few days off Saturn entering Aries, and that's exactly where we are. So we're looking into this space, this like space in between the worlds, and we're looking for information and we're finding what's going on. And it's like, feels like we're miles away from where we need to be. Okay? Like, see, monster over here, friend over here, gaping water emotion in between. So it feels like we're very far away from where we need to be, but in actual fact, they're chained that far. Okay. The 11th is going to be fiery. You've been warned. Okay. February 12th. What have you got? Sextile to Mars to start off. So we're starting off our day a bit fiery, right? 12:42 a.m. So good luck being asleep during this aspect. This is at the Gemini degree. So we are searching for emotional truth. We are searching for a way to move forward authentically. And to do that, we need to really like move without worrying about other people thinking we're being unconventional or weird or different. And then 317, adjustments needing to be made again in that family space, right? And Jupiter's going to be at 16 degrees as well, Cancer degree, and Sag moon also there. Adjustments need to be made. This could also be a little bit of tension as well. So you might have some weird dreams about family shit, maybe some ancestral stuff coming up as well. Just because, we're in that, I don't know, Sag moon sometimes it's really fucking spiritual. 6:55 a.m. Mercury semi-square to Chiron. Like there's an outworn delusion that you see the world through that is from this childhood wound that needs to be fucking let go of. And then, right? And then look at this. Pluto is at 4 degrees of Aquarius. If this was a flashing light, Pluto has not been at 4 degrees of Aquarius for 240 something years, 250 something years probably, right? Because we had Pluto move into Aquarius for the first time in about 250 years, November 2024. Pluto takes 6 months to move a degree, and he has retrograded. So we retrograded and came back through up until 3 degrees, right? We haven't seen Pluto at 4 degrees of Aquarius. So we are in uncharted fucking territory for all of us that walk this earth. Oh, that's somewhat exciting, but also terrifying, right? So the moon at 19 degrees of Sagittarius, that is a Libra degree. So it's about the give and take. It's about the balance of truth. It's about the balance of truth and emotions. It's about the balance of intuition and logic. It's about the balance of my truth and everyone else's truth, my emotional truth, and also the truth of the shadow side of you, right? Because Pluto. Now, Pluto at 4 degrees of Aquarius, 4 degrees is the Cancer degree. It's related to the family. It's related to security, to comfort, right? It's our most private kind of energy. 4 degrees. So the semi-square is like wanting us to like look at the outworn situation that we can see in the unbalanced spaces because of how much of our shadow we have kept away, right? And then we sort of see with that same moon, right, making a quintile to Venus at 19 degrees as well, that if we're starting off this new relationship space, if we're like building something new, if we're overcoming past traumas in relationships and now starting moving forward based on what we want, then we also need to be aware that the give and take of our emotional truth, the balance of that with other people, Venus related, it has to take into account their trauma and your trauma. That balance doesn't always look the same. And that's where we come back to like logic versus your truth. Like just because someone might be looking at the relationship dynamic from the outside and thinking like, oh, that doesn't really look very fair, you don't know the ins and outs of everyone's traumas in relationships, of everyone's what they're carrying, right? So that's kind of what that one's about. Now, this sun sextiling Chiron, that could be a lot of work for people, not going to lie. 12:46 p.m. 23 degrees is the Aquarius degree. And so the sun at the Aquarius degree of Aquarius, like being weird as fuck, and telling us that like there is potential, possibility, there is talent, there are things worth exploring in that weirdness that you haven't shown anyone because of the way that you grew up, because of the traumas that came around it, because you don't know how much space to take up, you don't know how weird you're allowed to be. Okay, so that's, I mean, it's a good aspect, but it could be a lot because the sextile, it is asking us to engage with the energy. All right, so semi-square again, Mars coming in now, 15 degrees. Check out what I found out. Look at this information that I've got about my rebellion, about my masculine energy being different, about how I motivate myself being different. And I am getting rid of all of these things that are holding me back, right? We made up in Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries. Like, this is what I'm letting go of. And then we have that moon at the Aquarius degree of Sag working in harmony with our childhood moon and kind of being like, fuck it, let's just like be weirdos, right? Sun sextiles the moon at the Aquarius degree, and then Mercury conjuncts the fucking node. So this is actually really nice energy. This is also where the Mercury retrograde pre-shadow begins. Okay, but halfway through this day. So that ending of the day, that last aspect, that's pretty crazy. Like the last aspect happens at 6 p.m., right? They usually go much later into the night. But Mercury conjuncting the node is helping us align our mind, the values of the mind, around trauma, the values of the mind around creative things, right? With where we're going in the future. They're working together now. Like it's as if the North Node is coming in and saying to our mind, our logic, how we communicate, how we understand things. It's coming in and it's going like, hey, there's nothing to be afraid of. Just align your thoughts here. And because of that sun sextiling the moon at the Aquarius degree, we are doing that through this energy of exploring our own emotional truth and exploring our own authentic expression of self, right? And we're doing that knowing that that expression of self has been stifled because of our family space growing up. This is going to be a lot of clarity for people, which is quite funny because we're going to get this moment of clarity with the Mercury. And when I'm saying clarity, it is quite a strange place to find clarity with the Mercury in Pisces because it's more like intuitive clarity. It's more like spiritual or emotional clarity. But there is some kind of clarity that's going to align you with where you're needing to fucking go, right? And that's the Mercury retrograde pressure at the beginning. So take note of the things that happen in that end part of February 12th, because those things are setting up your Mercury retrograde story, okay? And then we're going to go to the 13th. 13th of February. Oh, what have you got for us? A bunch of fucking squares. Jesus Christ. So that whole morning space, quintile, quincunx, quintile. There's something that you need to see, but something needs to be adjusted first, right? These energies need to be organized. We need to understand them. We need to put them in their place because there is something about the ones that need to work together in order to show us like the gift, show us the skill, show us the talent, right, that we've been hiding. Now, the moon quintile, the node, right, that's where this is the information I've collected from looking at my emotional space through this truth, right? Now I've got that. I'm going to see how I can align that with where I'm going. Something needs to be adjusted in our stability, money, worth, journey towards it that has been fucking with us for the last 8 years. Let's look at that. Let's make some adjustments. Then this moon quintiling Mercury is really interesting because the moon at 27 degrees of Sag, right, so the information that I've collected about my own truth and emotions, is showing you where there's mind patterns, where there is thought processes, where there is a way of communicating and receiving communication that is intuitive. So a moon at 27 degrees, Gemini degree of Sag, is very much an emotional space being run by some logic. And Mercury, 9 degrees of Pisces, is a mind space that's being run by intuitive truth, right? So we have the emotional space being run by logic, and we have the logic space being run by intuitive truth. So a quintile is saying like these two things can work together, okay? And in those two things working together, we're going to have a moon go void with a square to Saturn. So a 29-degree Sag moon, a 29-degree Pisces Saturn, and this is the last time in 30 years that this happens. There is a crisis of emotional truth energy, of a truth-seeking energy, of turning something to wisdom. Saturn wants you to do that, but it's going to feel like a fucking crisis. And it's causing some huge inner friction because we're going to go 628, moon goes void, and then 743, it's in Capricorn, but it's also making a square. So this is like a battleground, like Friday morning battleground. Excellent. That's what we want. Right. So when the Capricorn moon meets up with Neptune, that's quite a focused long-term goal energy, right? Like, what am I about to start building? Like, this is when we can see the emotional space getting a little bit of structure from a moon in Capricorn talking to a Neptune in Aries, right? So Neptune in Aries, we've started to build something. And with the moon in Capricorn at 0 degrees, having a little chat with it, sort of like putting some long-term goals into it, right? Now, those things might not align with where you thought you were going, okay? Those things might not align with what the reality of your life was, or the reality of the work that you put in, or, you know, what your family thought you wanted to move towards. Like, there could be this square, this friction happening because what it is that you actually want aligns with nobody else in your life, in your past, right? So watch out for that 630 square fucking Saturn with that Sag moon. That is going to be weird, because it's going to go void, and it's going void in a moment of friction between like what it is you think your emotional truth is, and then Big Daddy Saturn actually bringing some fucking intuitive emotional truth. Wild. Then a square to Neptune. It could be a bit fucking weird and hazy, all right, just because Neptune. But it could also be like the point of it could be weird and hazy, but the words being spoken are going to be direct and firing. And at that same time, like, it's trying to help you overcome points of powerless as a kid. It's trying to help align you with like the right sorts of people that you should be around. It's causing friction in the parts of us that we reject, especially when it comes to success and truth about what legacy and work and career looks like to us. This energy could really be quite a few people realizing that they're not in the right job, realizing they're not in the right line of work anymore, realizing that like they're only doing that because of their family and that they don't have any choices. This could be really realizing that you've just kind of reinvented some kind of powerless thing that you experienced as a child by getting yourself into a position where you're kind of locked in, right? Like maybe you work for your husband or wife's fucking sister or mum or parent, right? Like that kind of a stuck situation where like there's a realization that you can't be there anymore, but you're stuck. How do I move? How do I get out of this place? And how do I speak my truth? Like, what do I do? My advice would be to just literally go and speak the truth, like the whole truth. Like, I feel stuck. This is not for me. That's the only way really to fuckery. And 852, the semi-square to Mars, wants you to stay open-minded about how you move forward and be more nurturing towards your rebellious side, towards the side of you that moves through the world a little bit different, right? Maybe he'll move through a little bit cold. So it's sort of saying keep an open mind, and like that could be a little bit cold. A moon in Capricorn is always a little bit cold. But, you know, making this semi-square to Mars during this massive square energy of Saturn and Neptune as well, there could be a lot of coldness, could be a lot of battles of authority that don't quite make sense. And, you know, with Mercury in Pisces as well, and the Mercury retrograde energy and Saturn about to move, it's all a fucking hazy nonsense. And so stay open-minded. Compromises need to be made in how you move forward. 12:14 p.m., that could be someone getting in your way. You want to do something, the family gets in the way, you have to choose yourself. That causes a whole fucking bullshit. Be careful of that. 1:22 p.m., the moon sextiles Venus at 3 degrees. This is going to be weird as well, because this is somewhat communication, right? So having communication, 3 degrees, Gemini degree, or finding information that works with both this need for balanced emotions, right? Being in control of our emotions, to be protective about our emotions, works with that and works with being able to communicate traumatic experiences in relationships, right? And so you might have this experience where maybe you've been in a battleground earlier, and that's something that you would sort of not want to talk about with other people. But this energy is sort of saying, like, maybe just have a go. Maybe just have a go of communicating it and see if you can get it across. Because the 1:40 p.m. by Quintos is like, the way that you used to do this doesn't work. Like, you need to let go of it. You need to like drop that shit and do this in a different way. And then these two semi-sextiles that come next, one to Pluto and then one to Lilith, is letting us look into the underworld space there, specifically at family shit, because we're at 4 degrees, where we weren't felt protected, where we didn't feel safe, where we weren't able to find security enough to be our weird selves, where we maybe weren't allowed to speak up about emotions. Like, it's really saying here, like, be open-minded about this information, because you need to let go of these things in order to see something from a different perspective. And the 6-degree Lilith, that is about your everyday life, your everyday habits. So this one is about having to stay open-minded to the parts of you that you reject that absolutely fuck around with your ability to be focused, absolutely fuck around with your ability to earn success, earn hard work. And this kind of aspect is really saying that there is something within your family dynamic that probably created either, right, on either end of this polarity, this idea that you should be entitled to success without having to do any work, or this idea that you will never have that, right? Rejecting your truth around what you're able or capable of bringing in. Oh, I can never do that. I can never stick to a routine. I can never do that. That kind of energy is now asking you to stay open-minded, and it's doing that because the Mercury retrograde that's about to fucking kick in is very much about your habits and how you align them with your purpose and what it is that you are here to do, instead of trying to create habits based on somebody else's goals. Okay, let's get a witch card for this, because that fucking Sag Pisces square. Advice, please. Create. I love that. Be the crafter, be the creator, right? So stay open-minded as you craft and create your way forward. And don't get stuck in mentalities that you've been told, like as a child, that you can't do. Oh, you're not very organized. You can't do that. Oh, you're not very focused. That's not really a job for you. Throw that to the side, because there is something, whatever it is that you're here to do, there is an authentic way that you're going to do that, and no one's going to fucking understand it. Okay? No one. Let's go to the most romantic day of the year, February 14th. Saturn moves to Aries, the god of discipline, karma, time, structure, moves to Aries, the god of war. Happy Valentine's Day. Okay, so terrible day, right straight out. I'm going to tell you right now, terrible day for getting married. Terrible day for proposing. Terrible day for asking somebody to put your needs before their own. Terrible day for assuming that somebody won't align with their own authentic needs. Terrible day for avoiding responsibility. Okay? Happy Valentine's Day. So we start off with this sextile to the node, which is asking us to really focus, lock in, consciously make an effort to explore possibilities that we didn't see before because our value system was fucked. The semi-square to the moon is saying to you, you better fucking integrate all of the stuff that Aquarius season has taught you about your own authentic power, and you better make that what is building that value system, right? The outworn shit, the outworn stuff that does not align with this new version of you, Sun and Aquarius, needs to be born, and you need to get rid of it, and you need to stay open-minded to the things in which that is going to change. Venus making a semi-sextile to Pluto at 3:43 a.m. Venus at 4 degrees of Pisces, really understanding the way in which lack of security, lack of nurturing, the way it grew up in its family space that caused any type of trauma to the way that it loves, to the way that it creates, to the way that it sees its worth, is now like very open-mindedly looking at the shadow space that holds back that authenticity, that holds back those weird things that we've been hiding from because someone made us feel like, oh, you better not show that. 5:17 a.m., the moon at 11 degrees of Capricorn. That's an Aquarius degree. That's cold. Cold as fuck, the moon at 11 degrees of Capricorn, because we're seeing things from an external perspective. We're not being deeply involved in the emotion, right? But Mercury is at 11 degrees of Pisces, the Aquarius degree of Pisces. Now, Mercury in Pisces is very intuitive. This is very intuitive on a personal level, on a me level, on how I'm seeing it. But the Aquarius degree is allowing us to see how it affects the collective, and it's allowing us to see how the collective is affected individually by it, right? So the moon at 11 degrees Capricorn, a bit cold. Mercury at 11 degrees of Pisces, a bit weird. So this is like, don't be having romantic conversations, because this is asking you to really explore like a moon that is trying to be logical, trying to understand things from an external perspective, but is a bit protective, is a bit locked in, is a bit, stubborn and focused, right? And Mercury is trying to open your mind. So we're trying to explore this idea, and like we've seen this show up earlier in the week, of this idea of the moon space, the emotional space, our everyday kind of emotional roller coaster being ruled over by logic and stubbornness, and then our logic and our communication energy is being ruled over by this spiritual intuitive energy. And we're really like exploring this dynamic, right? And one of the things that we can do with that energy is we can look at the ways in which the last 8 years of our life have shown us we're not aligning our intuition and emotions with our logic and our focus, how that fucks us up, how that stops us from being able to achieve goals, right? And then we get to like some of the most romantic energy, which is the moon of Hope. This is mum and dad having a fight, okay? This is mum and dad, cosmic mum and dad having a fight, and it's quite expanded because Jupiter, right? Jupiter is expanding everything it touches. And an opposition is, it's a tug of war. It's dad trying to be more important than mum. And again, we've got this tug of war between the moon at 16 degrees, Cancer degree of Capricorn, trying to be nurturing but also protective, but being stubborn and like not feeling safe to maybe have our emotional space. And it's like opposing this family space. How you were nurtured, right? It's opposing that. So then at 4:25 p.m., a semi-sextile, be open-minded when you're moving forward, right? 17 degrees, and expressing yourself, your personal creative energy when that's coming out. Stay open-minded. Be okay with expressing your side of it, even though people might think it's weird, because what we're seeing next, these two quintiles, right? Because dun, 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 now we've got Saturn and Aries are together. That's it. Game on. It's beginning. They won't be in a direct conjunction until next weekend, so the 21st, but they're here. This is where it starts. This is where it starts. And it's starting in this energy of the quintile, which is saying like, okay, all right, everyone's here now. We're all here. We're all in Aries, Saturn and Neptune, right? Everyone get together. Let's go, let's talk. What are we doing? How are we going? Right? Like Neptune's been sitting there waiting for Saturn to arrive with, let's go before we can go on the adventure. And so here we go. This is when stuff starts dropping into reality. Boundaries start being put up. It's very interesting to me that the first aspect that a Saturn at 0 degrees of Aries makes is a moon at 18 degrees, Virgo degree, bitchy degree, devil degree of Capricorn. Write the list. Get a plan. Get the dream, Neptune. Give it boundaries, Saturn. Be focused, Capricorn. Look at the details in an analytical way. Quintiles say that all of these things work together, that there is an energy of a unique talent or unique creativity that can be found with these energies working together. That right there, 613 to 713, that is building your new reality in a very detailed, list writing, focused, long-term kind of way. So then the semi-square to Venus at 10:09. At one situation that needs to be let go of. The moon at 20 degrees, Scorpio degree, burn it down, start again, of Capricorn, focus, long-term goals. Venus at 5 degrees of Pisces, places in which you were powerless, maybe because of trauma, to love yourself, or like someone wanting to have fun and enjoy themselves because they've overcome trauma, right? Semi-squared staying outworn situation. So the reason why Valentine's Day is not romantic, it's not good for proposals, it's not good for weddings, it's not good for any of those type of love things, is because we start the fucking day off exploring what it is that makes us uncomfortable about the future, and it asks us a question of whether or not we set our future focused goals on something that was an illusion. And then it says there's an outworn situation now because we are a different person. And then it says um, the version of you that entered into this relationship is not the same version that you are now. And we need to be speaking from this new version of now and choosing ourselves, our choices, our voice. And things need to be shifted and changed, because the reason that you're standing here right now has involved a lot of stuck energy that has been quite compulsive and obsessive and repetitive and keeps getting you stuck, right? And a sesquiquadrate is like a stress dynamic that could show up in a relationship. Okay. The opposition to the moon is bringing mother wounds, father wounds into the fucking mix. And it's saying, again, decisions that you have made up until this point have been like filtered through a mother wound, a father wound, the way in which you thought relationship should go because of those wounds, or how much value you felt in relationships, or how much you believe you're worthy of relationships. You've been here because of this shit, right? The semi-sextile, again, stay open-minded because something is about to change and you need to choose yourself. Mars in Aquarius is fucking rebellion. Okay? Rebelling against something that you've always fucking wanted, Capricorn, something that you've been working on, Capricorn, something that you've been focused on, Capricorn, something that you've committed to, Capricorn. Mars in Aquarius, 17 degrees, rebellious as fuck. I'm doing it my way. The double quintile saying here, you're building something new, choose your fucking self. Look at the details of this, right? But a moon in Capricorn at 18 degrees is cold as fuck, judgy as fuck. It looks at the details of a decision that you made, that you were focused on, that was you'd set a long-term goal on, and it kind of is deciding whether or not it has any space right now. And because Saturn and Neptune are conjunct at 0 degrees, the last 3 years with Saturn in Pisces is going to start to ground. The last couple of weeks that we've been in since Neptune moved to Aries, that shit is starting to ground. We're starting to see those things come into reality. They're getting boundaries, they're growing legs, Capricorn. Strong foundations are being built under this energy if we allow ourselves to be confident and rebellious about how we move forward. Confident that we know who the fuck we are now, and rebellious against the old version of us, rebellious against the old way of doing things. And then that semi-square to Venus with the moon in Capricorn at a Scorpio degree, we're not only burning shit to the ground and rebuilding it and transforming it and understanding it, but we are doing that in a Capricorn moon, locked in, focused, long-term goal. Venus at 5 degrees of Pisces is a Venus that is choosing to enjoy. For some people, choose casual relationships over what they were thinking was a long-term thing. This is a semi-square that is saying that an outworn situation about how you were long-term focused, or how you were focused, or how you saw the stability, or how you saw the foundations of relationships is now fuzzy as shit. Okay? That's what it's saying. This aspect as well, in my opinion, it has something to do with what's going to come with the Venus retrograde down the line, just because the Venus is going to retrograde in Libra and Scorpio. It's going to be about the balance of secrets in relationships. It's going to be about deception coming forward. It's going to be about people pleasing coming forward in relationships and how that leads to deception. And just that moon at 20 degrees of Capricorn and Venus here as well. And we're staying open-minded to this outworn situation. We've got to find what we enjoy in relationships outside of the fog and trauma. And yeah, this is Valentine's Day is going to have a little bit of a say retrograde later this year. So let's get a card for this fucking wild day. Please, anyone who is around any weddings or proposals, I want to know, because anything that works out during this day, especially people who are getting married in the afternoon, that's, if you make it through, That's good vibes for your relationship. I just would not be proposing any long-term things on this day that are focused on other people's enjoyment of life. This is a self-day, choose self. So let's hope if you're proposing to fix a relationship, mate, that's gonna go really badly. Okay. Okay, so the energy for February 14th, as per the cards, Queen of Swords, speaking up your fucking truth, regardless of whether or not you're worried about feeling shame. Nine of Pentacles in reverse, coming out with the Knight of Wands in reverse. So, I mean, this is potentially a trigger from someone who you thought you needed, and then Knight of Wands in reverse, like realizing and then having them blow up at you, right? Because of impatience, because of trauma and sadness, and because of something that you couldn't see that you can now see. Okay. That's what I've got for you. The 8th to the 14th. Hope you found some of that helpful. We are days away from a new moon solar eclipse. So if you'd like a reading before then, please come and book one, because we are in a pretty life-changing moment right now. So that's fine. Yeah. Let's get through this week, and remember to be paying attention to everything in your Pisces houses. That is the Mercury retrograde. To be looking at your habits, be careful of your health, careful of the illusion that Mercury and Pisces creates, and be aware that miscommunication, if you are thinking of things from a logical perspective, is very fucking likely. Love yourself on Valentine's.